Everyone, welcome back to WCB Jazz Vinyl. As promised, in this video, I'm announcing a giveaway, my own label, Gammaut Recordings release of Pepper Adams Quintet. Also in this video, I'm going to run down my top 10 favorite jazz reissues of 2025, and I may even sneak in a box set. Before we dive in, let's see, subscribe, be a subscriber. That's actually very important for this giveaway. So do be a subscriber by clicking that button. Of course, you can click like if you enjoy this content, and you can follow me on Instagram if you like. I'm at what_can_brown. All right, so let's cover that giveaway first. So what am I giving away in this video? A copy of Pepper Adams Quintet, which was released this year by Gammaut Recordings. Gammaut is the label that myself and a fellow collector, Philippe Berman, started in 2025, and we're hoping to keep it going into 2026 and beyond with some exciting titles that I'm not ready yet to announce, but that announcement will be coming soon. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to sort of give back a little bit, I suppose, as well as generate a little bit of extra press for this release that we're so excited about. So let me cover this first in terms of telling you a little bit more about this, as well as some of the great reception that it's been receiving. And then after that, and after sort of the rules for how to enter, I'll get into my top 10 reissues for 2025. And to sort of save face, I'm not going to include this on that list. I'll let you be the judge of whether this release belongs on your top 10 list for 2025. But I'll be covering other titles. So again, let me just kind of cover some of the nuts and bolts of our album. So what we did is we were able to find great source material for this, which is a Dolby flat tape copy. We had Bernie Grundman remaster the recording for us, and it is in stereo. So this album was originally put out only in mono. However, it was recorded in mono and stereo simultaneously, and that stereo tape is what has survived. So that's what we were able to use. We were able to master this in 45 RPM because, well, firstly, it sounded better than the 33 because we actually had it mastered in both formats by Bernie Grundman, and we're able to choose the best sounding version. And the other way that we were able to do this and not add cost associated with adding another disc to this is that because this recording is relatively shorter. It's a little over 30 minutes, which is not so out of the norm for this era, for 1957. But it sounds strange perhaps to us these days who are used to, when it's a 45 RPM, requiring that second disc. But rest assured, we were able to fit all of the content and not have it not have it be compromised by being able to fit it all on a single 45 RPM disc. The jackets that we used here were done by Stoughton, and they are phenomenal. All the feedback we've been getting is that they're just super sturdy, really high quality. We included a 40-page booklet in this release as well that features new essays, session photos. We even commissioned new illustrations. In fact, here, let me show you just really quickly what this looks like inside from a copy that I had already opened. But yeah, you can see here. Get a sense, I guess, of the material that we used, and the fact again that this is a very extensive booklet. Here's some of the illustrations again that I referenced that we commissioned. But yeah, just really fantastic stuff. Gary Karner actually does one of the most substantial essays in this 40-page booklet. He is actually the guy who literally wrote the biography on Pepper Adams. So wealth of knowledge that he's able to get across in this new essay that we have here. Each of these do come individually numbered through a separate card, and it's a limited pressing of 2,000 copies. Now, what I will say is that the copy that I'm giving away as part of this giveaway is actually a promo copy. And so what you're going to get is not only is it going to be, it's still going to have the hype sticker. You're going to have a promo sticker actually on the jacket down here. You're also going to get the numbered card, but instead of it saying, this number out of 2,000, it's going to say promo. So you still get everything that comes with this, and it's a promo copy, which, I think is pretty cool. All right, so if I haven't sold you yet, and I shouldn't need to sell you because again, I'm giving away a free copy. I want to run down some of the great reviews that we've been getting because we are just incredibly humbled by the reception that this is getting. Not only on YouTube as well as on Instagram from all the customers that we have, but also sort of professional reviewers as well. So a few of those folks who have weighed in include Michael Fremer, highly respected guy in the audiophile space, also writer for Tracking Angle. He gave us a 10 for music and an 11 for sound. Audiophile Audition weighed in, gave it 5 stars. We got 4 stars, an editor's choice designation for Jazzwise magazine. All About Jazz gave it 4 stars. We've had stellar reviews from Modern Drummer magazine, The Arts Fuse, Audiophilia. We've also had YouTube reviews by The Pressing Matters, The Jazz Bums. Norman Maslow, aka Mazzy, gave it, actually included it in his best jazz releases for 2025. Let's see, Rob the Waxed weighed in with a video. Many Instagram reviews have come in, including by Zev Feldman, and just all of the all of the feedback that we've been getting has just been incredible. And I think it's across, and this is sort of important to us, it's across people who are passionate fans of jazz music, and then it's also coming from people who are passionate fans of great sounding releases, right? It's sort of this merge of the more of the jazz heads and even the sort of the jazz historian heads, with the folks who are always after the best possible sounding music that's out there. And again, the reception has been quite amazing. So so why now? Why am I doing this now? Well, we've actually sold, I believe, somewhere around 3/4 of our stock. So the fact that it hasn't even been 2 months since we released it, is fantastic. So copies are sort of flying off the shelves, as it were. But we're only selling from our own website, right? Gammaut.com is how we're selling it. In Europe, we actually are leveraging both the Jazz Bureau in London as well as Sam Records in France. So know that, and know that Sam Records is not only selling it out of their physical brick and mortar store, but also online. And what's really cool is that Sam Records doesn't sell other labels' stuff online. They just sell Sam Records stuff, and now they're selling our release. So I think it's super cool, and I also think it's great that for those customers in Europe, there's a couple of options for you to be able to get a copy and not necessarily have to go through the process of of shipping and all the duties and taxes and all those kinds of things, right? So it makes it a little bit easier for our customers in Europe. Um, but I do want to say, like I said, we've sold 3/4 of the stock, but we're not going to repress this. We have no intention of doing so. And so I would encourage those folks to not only participate in this giveaway, but if you're not successful, maybe consider picking up a copy as well. It would help a small label like ours out immensely. So let's talk about now, how do you enter? It is incredibly easy. It is free. All you have to do is be a subscriber. So again, click that subscribe button and make sure you're a subscriber of my channel. And then the only other thing you need to do is comment below in this video, what was your favorite release of the year? So I will treat that as a entry into this giveaway. All right. So again, free to enter, really easy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a video on Wednesday. This is US Eastern time. I'm going to post a video on Wednesday with the winner. It's not going to be a live video. It's just going to be a normal video. So you don't have to worry about tuning in at a particular time, but I'll try to get it up, say midday or so. And what I'm going to do is I'll assign all of the entries a number, and then I'm going to use a random number generator to choose who gets it. Done this before on YouTube and it's worked out fine. So after that point, after the winner is chosen, I'm going to message the winner as well directly via YouTube, and the winner will just have to respond to me within 7 days, and I just need to get that shipping address. I will ship anywhere in the world that I'm allowed to. So if there's an embargo in your country, I'm sorry, but for anywhere else, I will foot the bill for the shipping, and I'll likely use a relatively inexpensive shipping method that still is able to get it there safely. So know that. Otherwise, doing giveaways on YouTube is not without a little bit of legalese, and this is just so that YouTube allows us to do it. So what I will say in order to comply is I am releasing YouTube of any liability associated with this giveaway. This giveaway does comply with YouTube guidelines. Entries that don't comply with these guidelines will be disqualified, and The rules of this giveaway are available in the description. I think those are all the things that I have to say in order to be able to do this. All right, so let's get into my top 10 favorite reissues of 2025. I'm going to start with three vocal ones, and then we'll move into more of the instrumental stuff. Some of these I'm going to go through relatively quickly because I've already covered them on YouTube. In fact, some of these very, very recently. In fact, this first one is a good example of that. Nat King Cole's The Christmas Song. So you may ask, wait a second, isn't that a little bit more of the pop space rather than the jazz space? Well, I make the rules, and I'm really just doing my favorite reissues of the year, really across genres. But let's be real, this is like all mostly jazz or jazz adjacent. Anyway, this definitive sound series that Capitol put out is amazing. I've already gotten in the Beck title. Beck title is amazing as well. Not including it in this because I kind of did want it to be a little bit more in the jazz adjacent space, but this is just an amazing series. What they were able to do with this recording in particular, with Nat King Cole's voice, the fact that they were able to come up with a completely different mix that didn't try to replicate, this original classic recording. I just found I thought it was very interesting, but it was so well executed, and I absolutely love this album. So I know that we're around Christmas time. I don't think that that is swaying my judgment. I think that this belongs in the top 10. Really is fantastic. Next one up was a late announcement in the Tone Poet series in 2025. I also recently covered this in a video, and it is Frank Sinatra's In the Wee Small Hours. I as soon as I heard this, I was like just blown away, just absolutely blown away at how beautiful this music was. And I did have a copy, a sort of an early reissue by Capitol Records of this music, but this presented it in such a new and interesting way, and it's absolutely phenomenal. If you look around as well at like sort of professional reviewers assessments for 2025, in almost every single list you're going to see this, and it is so well deserved. The folks at Tone Poet did such a great job with this release. And yeah, this is not the only one from the Blue Note Tone Poet catalog that's going to make this list. I do have, I think, two others, so we'll get to those in turn. But yeah, Frank Sinatra's In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. I just think, like, especially if you're a Frank fan, like, I can't imagine that there's any other way that they could just improve on this. It just sounds so, so beautiful. The third one that is also the in the vocal space is the new folk sound of Terry Collier. Now, the interesting thing about the inclusion of this for 2025 is that there was recently a reissue of this, I think a couple of years ago. They didn't do enough. It sold out very quickly. The prices of that copy went sky high, the sort of Craft Recordings copy. And Acoustic Sounds, fortunately, decided to tackle this as well for their Bluesville reissue series. And this is a recording, much like really all of these, like, it isn't just the reissue that makes this stuff amazing. Obviously, it's the source material. I mean, any version of this particular record that you're going to be blown away. If you've never heard Terry Collier before, it is absolutely amazing, beautiful, beautiful music. And they have done such a stellar job with presenting it in this edition. I'm trying to think who was involved. So this is a Matthew Luthen's remastering. And he's been getting more and more involved in a lot of these series. But 180 gram QRP, kind of some of the typical stuff that you see from Acoustic Sounds, but they really knocked it out of the park with this Terry Collier record. All right, so this next one up was part of the Verve Record Club, which was a brand new subscription series that launched at the beginning of the year. And listen, I know, there's a lot of criticism of some of these subscription-based clubs, right? That lock up exclusive titles for members, and this was one of them. It happens to be John Coltrane Quartet's self-titled, Coltrane album that was originally put out on Impulse. So this was, I believe, one of the very first titles that was in the Verve Record Club, and again, an exclusive title. So you can't just go to the Verve website and buy this, unless you're, I guess you could get it secondhand, maybe on Discogs at this point. But if you are a member of the Verve Record Club, you can purchase this. I think it's like $32 on sale right now. So it's actually not bad, but it is an all analog reissue done just very, very well. And this is one of those titles that was not tackled by the Acoustic Sound series. So they had kind of held that back, and here we have it associated with again, the Verve Record Club. But I was absolutely blown away by this, really in every way, both in terms of the packaging, which, you know, is these sort of thick covers that you might expect to see from like an Acoustic Sounds treatment, but they replicated the blue tone, you know, gatefold, and just all around. This is a really, really fantastic release to look at, also to listen to. It's a stereo presentation, but you know, I think short of sourcing an original copy, I suppose, this is, I mean, this is definitely going to give you all the experience of that and more, right? This is going to sound better than that original, in my opinion. Next one up is not one, but two. So what do I mean by that? Well, Jazz by Sun Ra, which was originally put out by Transition Records, was reissued in 2025 by Sam Records. And they not only did the sort of first volume, but what was originally supposed to be the second volume put out on Transition, which never made it to Transition, but it was released otherwise much later. So what they did is they kind of reimagined what the front cover would look like for Volume 2, and they kind of matched it to be to the same style as Volume 1. I think this is just an absolutely fabulous release for this year. These were cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent. They did an amazing job. And listen, like, there was a lot of people who were upset about this because when these two were put out, they were quite expensive. And I believe in what Sam Records calls their artisan series, right? So these were very premium items, like, you know, $100+ type of thing, and in such a small quantity. And they sold out really quickly, like in like days. All of these were gobbled up, and I think it's because, you know, listen, there's a lot of energy around Sun Ra titles. The fact that they did these really ornate, and I know it's hard to sort of see this through the video, especially with a sleeve on it, but very nicely sort of textured, executed covers for the Artisan series that they typically do, right? They sort of pull out all the stops for the Artisan series. Well, fortunately for those folks who missed the release of these titles earlier in the year, Sam Records decided to do a non-Artisan series version of each of them. So you can currently go to Sam Records and buy these. I think they're 45 pounds a piece. You can currently buy them, and, you know, okay, they're not going to be quite the same in terms of the jacket construction, but I think it's exactly the same in terms of the mastering. So you're gonna get, you're gonna get the same music, and in fact, I do think that even the 45, I said pounds, I think I meant euros. Even in the 45 euro version, you're going to get like a screen printed jacket. So it's still a very, Sam Records always does such a great job with all of their titles. So I wouldn't worry about the quality that you're going to get just because you're going for the 45 euro option. And maybe in some ways the joke's on those of us who paid the money, right, for these artisan series. But these are just absolutely stellar. I would say, even if you're not a huge Sun Ra fan, this is the era of Sun Ra that I think appeals to a much broader cross section of jazz fans. Like, this stuff is really, really good. I think if you like that Savoy title, the Sun Ra Savoy title, which was recently reissued by Kraft Recordings, maybe a couple of years ago at this point, if you like that, I think you're going to like this as well. And these are just, this is one of those examples too, I think, where it's a reissue that does justice to the original item, because it's like the exact same construction, the same texture of jackets, like the same booklets that originally came in these, that are so sought after in the original versions. They replicated all of this for both the artisan as well as the standard series. So yeah, for all of those reasons, I'm putting this on my top list for 25. All right, so if any of these top 10 catch you off guard, maybe something that you haven't heard of before or seen, it's probably going to be this one. So this is Kiyoshi Sugimoto's Babylonia Wind, and it is being put out on I believe it's the Nipponophone record label in collaboration with the HMV Record Shop. So the reason why this makes my list is kind of a couple of reasons. One is that you're never, ever, ever going to be able to get a copy of this otherwise. That's one. Like, if you go on Discogs, there's like maybe a dozen people that have it. Borderline doesn't exist. So that's one. Obviously, it's rare. the fact that that these folks decided to, put in the time and effort to put together a reissue of, an album that is so, it's not that it's so sought after. People don't know that it exists. I think the idea is that they're bringing it forward to allow people to discover it for the first time, and I think that that's really really cool. That's like a little bit of like my mentality with this Gammaut Recordings label, to try to find the stuff that's underappreciated and bring it forward. And so I really love that they did that. But obviously, this wouldn't be on my list if the music wasn't also great, and it really, really is. If I were to describe it, I mean, it certainly has a sort of a J jazz or a Japanese jazz sound. It's almost like a dirtier sort of fusion kind of like jazz rock style in some ways. I think it's just really exciting music. I think most folks won't have heard it. I hadn't heard it until it was reissued, and I took the opportunity to grab a copy. And so, yeah, I think it's going to surprise a lot of folks in a really good way. Incidentally, it is red vinyl, which, whatever. It's becoming more and more popular, it seems like these days. So yeah, definitely check this out. See if you can preview this online. You probably can at this point. Stream it. See if it's something that you enjoy. All right, so number 7 on my sort of list of 10, and probably a lot of folks out there are wondering where some of the more prominent reissue labels are going to sort of enter into this list, such as Muse, such as Strata East, maybe some more Blue Note. Well, we're about to get into that. So this next one is by Time Traveler Recordings, which is Time Traveler Records, which is a brand new reissue label from Zev Feldman for 2025. They're kind of starting out with this Muse reissue series, but we've already seen through Record Store Day that they're not limited to just that. It just so happens that that's one of the projects that they're doing. And I've said this in prior videos. I think that they did such a great job in choosing the initial titles. One of the first in the first sort of batch. They've already announced, I think, the second batch. But one of the first in the first batch was Kenny Barron's Sunset to Dawn. And I felt like out of the first few that they put out, this one was my favorite. I think I loved all of them. So the others were Roy Brooks, The Free Slave, and I know that one gets a lot of energy. A lot of people absolutely love that album. The other one was Carlos Garnett's Cosmos Nucleus, right? But out of those three, I will say that Sunset to Dawn is my favorite of those releases. And I think that I think part of it is that when there's a sort of audiophile reissue, one of the things that I'm looking for is a substantial difference between the original item and the reissue, and just overall sound. Like how do the albums make me feel personally, right? As a listener. And I get more from this album than I do from perhaps some of the others. I think all of them are great. I think if I expanded this list to a top 20 or 20 plus, those would certainly be on it as well. But with the top 10, the one that's going to make it for me is Sunset to Dawn. It's just absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous music. And again, this is also one, like many of these, that are so difficult to get in any other format on vinyl. And so, when you have a great reissue label that's taking the time, that knows how to do this stuff, knows the right people to get involved, and they choose great material. I mean, I just think it's really something to celebrate. This is going to be one of those labels as they continue, I think, to release Muse and continue to release other records, that you're going to have to kind of pay attention to everything that they put out, because they're doing such a good job. And again, all the right people are at the table. All right, number 8, also a brand new reissue series, but not by a brand new label. This is Mac Avenue's Strata East reissue series, right? So last Record Store Day, I think, actually 2 Record Store Days ago, right? So the April one kicked things off for this label with the Pharoah Sanders release, and then they've been putting out additional titles. I think they also just announced their recently their next titles in the series as well. So the one that I wanted to include, though, is Charles Rouse's Two is One. So this is also one of those situations where I understand that they've had now multiple titles out. This is the one that I wanted to choose for my top 10 for some of the same reasons as what I was just talking about with the Kenny Barron title. I think that there was a significant enough difference between the original and this one, and a significant enough improvement to really, really impress me. So one of the things that I referenced when I did a video on this title is how blown away I was by the sound overall, but also the bass. Like, this is one of those albums that really made my subwoofer sound the probably the best that I've ever heard it, and it's not because it's so much bass, it's because of like the character around the bass in this. And so that's like one of the sort of sonic highlights I think that I'm remembering from that video calling out. But like the like some of these others, right? All the right people at the table. You've got Kevin Gray doing the mastering, RTI actually manufacturing this. Some great liner notes across all of these by Sid Schwartz. Yeah, just this is just the whole package, and I think it's really great that not just are the Strata East titles getting put out again, because done in in somebody else's hands they could really sort of screw it up or shortchange it, but done in the right hands, it's amazing how great some of these titles can sound and how much energy they can bring to those original recordings. So I'm a big fan of this series, and I can't wait to see what else they do. So number 9, let's get into some Tone Poet. And how would it be if I had a top 10 list with 3 Tone Poet titles and none of them were originally put out on Blue Note? Well, watch me have that list. So this next one, because I had Frank Sinatra earlier in the thing, which is Capital, right? So guess what? Number 9, another Capital title, and this is Serge Chaloff's Blue Surge. So I was a subscriber for much of 2025 with the Tone Poet series. I'm not currently a subscriber, and that is not a statement on the quality of the series. It's just that, you always got to like prioritize your money in the right way. And I kind of wanted to be a little bit more nimble, especially because I have so many of these titles already, so many of the Blue Note titles already on vinyl. So I decided at some point what I wanted to do was kind of back away a little bit from the subscription series and focus on some of the titles that I really wanted to have a great copy of. And this is a good example. Like, in order to find a great clean copy of this, you're going to spend some money, and it hasn't had a great all analog reissue treatment in quite some time. So this was an opportunity anyway for me to get it, and I think that that sort of almost like colors my preferences, I think, in the Tone Poet series. So if I already have so many of these in their original form, therefore I don't get the Blue Note titles because I already have them. It ends up that I focus on some of these some of the other labels, right, that they're tackling. So that's part of the reason perhaps why some of these Capital titles, and then coming up with another one, why I focused on those and why they're included here. But I thought that this is just a phenomenal release. Lately, I've been getting into baritone sax a little bit more, and to be able to hear Serge Chaloff on this recording, I think is fantastic. Yeah, they just did such a great job. And what's really encouraging, I think, is that the folks behind the Tone Poet series, especially Joe Harley as the producer, you can tell he has really good taste, right? Knows what recordings sound great, and I love that they're looking within the broader context of Universal's catalog rather than just Blue Note, because I think that there are so many other really exciting recordings that deserve the spotlight, right? And this is just one of those titles. I've been a fan of this for basically the entire time I've been collecting, and it's just difficult to get a copy in better than like VG shape. So kudos to the Tone Poet team with the inclusion of this title in the series. All right, finally, and I'll say finally with an asterisk because I do want to highlight a box set or two. So what we have here for number 10 though is Art Pepper's Modern Art. So I know I kind of said, hey, some of these from the Tone Poet series are not necessarily Blue Note, and I'm sure that they're great. Like, I'm sure all the Blue Note ones are great. In fact, all the Blue Note ones that I have that from 2025 have been fantastic. But I was just so impressed at some of the off-label choices that they made for the Tone Poet series in 25, and this is one of those titles that, like, my gosh, if you want to get a decent playing copy, $1,000, I mean, you're going to be spending a lot of money, and it's just impossible to find these in decent condition for anything close to reasonable. This is a perfect opportunity for some of the best folks in the business to focus in on this and release it as part of the Tone Poet series. I mean, to have Kevin Gray's treatment of this, I just think that this is really, really special. I understand that this is like early Art Pepper, but it is so clean sounding, so fresh. It's like hearing the music for the first time in the best possible way that it could ever be presented. And so, yeah, like as now a label, sort of co-owner, this is exactly the sort of thing that I would just, kill to be able to have the opportunity to release. just a fantastic choice and a fantastic opportunity to, again, shine a spotlight on something that a lot of people haven't heard because it's just so unavailable and so out of reach for so many of us. All right, the last release that I want to highlight in this video is actually a box set. You always have to have room for box sets, right? So I wanted to have my top 10, or really 11, because I kind of combine those two Sun Ra stuff. Whatever, I make the rules. So what I want to talk about, though, is Newland's box set of this Chet Baker Quintet. So this compiles his releases for Prestige Records, and this is just, I think, really special. I love that they compiled all of them. In many ways, it mirrors those classic sessions that Miles Davis put out in Prestige, for Prestige, right? Those handful of titles that are also famous, and these were similarly inspired in terms of like the naming conventions for the albums and all of that. Obviously, a different era though, right? So I feel a little bit embarrassed because I still have yet to make a formal video about this release, even though it came out now, what, like almost 2 months ago, something like that. My understanding is that these are going to sell out. I heard that or saw that, I think, by the label. So it's at least I'm getting this in and being able to include it in my list while it's still available. But I would say for those folks who might be interested in this, maybe try to get on it if you're going to, just because they're not gonna. There's no way that they'd reissue this. Box sets don't usually get reissued, so I can't imagine that they would do that. Also, it's relatively inexpensive in terms of box sets with 5 albums. I think it's $199, which, you know, I don't think you can do much better than that. So let me kind of take the opportunity, because I haven't covered this in other videos, to show you just really quickly what you get with this box set. So again, these are all originally put out by Prestige. So you have Boppin' with the Chet Baker Quintet, and incidentally, these are not all like massive gatefold jackets, because it's a box set. You kind of want to keep things contained on the shelf, but still beautiful. It's beautiful, high quality matte kind of finish on each of these jackets. So anyway, you got Boppin' with the Chet Baker Quintet. George Coleman, Kirk Lightsey, Herman Wright, and Roy Brooks are on this one. It's like 1967 album. The next one, these probably out of order. You get Cool Burnin' with the Chet Baker Quintet as well. It is, let's see, Roy Brooks, Herman Wright, Kirk Lightsey, and George Coleman. I think this was 1967 as well. These were all like, I think these are all issued around the same time period. So coming on with the Chet Baker Quintet, same lineup, also probably 1967. Trying to remember. You got Smokin' with the Chet Baker Quintet. This one could be my favorite of the bunch, but I actually love all of them. Same lineup. This one was actually 66, so I think this was the first one. This is actually one of the few that I have an original pressing of as well. And then finally, Groovin' with the Chet Baker Quintet. So yeah, same lineup, 1966. So this and Smokin' would probably have been the first two. So these albums have become quite collectible, and they haven't been tackled otherwise by, Craft Recordings, because I think Craft's parent company Concord owns the owns the rights to this content. So I think it's a great opportunity to, be able to tackle all of these, put them all together, make it in a relatively affordable format in this box set that Newland did. And you also have a pretty extensive booklet as well. So, and I kind of wanted to highlight some of these things in a little bit more detail, just because when you get a box set, it's kind of what you're getting incrementally, right? It isn't just the music in that original jacket. It's like, what else? So you have the outer box, you have the 5 albums, each with the original cover art, and you have this really great booklet, lots of pictures, lots of kind of essays and stuff like that. So I thought that they succeeded not only in just sort of the treatment of the music, but in honoring the concept of a box set, right? Just the whole package. I felt like they did a really good job. So that's why it made it. I may end up doing a more sort of focused video on this particular release and talk a little bit more about the music, how it compares to some of the originals that I have, and that kind of thing. Because I've been getting it more into this even just in the last couple of weeks, but definitely earned a spot on the top reissues of 2025. All right, so that's it. We're done. That's the top 10 plus, well, and the box set releases for 2025. So what's your assignment? Well, if you want to enter to have a chance to win a copy of Pepper Adams Quintet by my own label, Gammaut Recordings, let me know what your favorite reissue was for 2025 and be a subscriber. And just those two things mean that you can enter for that chance. And be on the lookout for the update video that I'll be posting on the 23rd to announce the winner. So with that, thanks as always for your attention, and I'll see you next time.